Welcome to the People, Purpose, and Profits Business Coaching Podcast. My name is Brian Buck, and my wonderful co host is.
And I'm Kat.
For those audio, I always get my hands wrong because on Zoom it goes the opposite way when I try to throw to who I. Anyways, we'll move on. Today we're going to talk about money mindset. Kat, kick us off.
Well, thank you so much for wanting to talk about the subject because I find it is probably the most important thing, especially for online entrepreneurs to address right off the bat if they want to have a successful business and make profits. And one of the things that I recognize, and I really love this metaphor that people have used in the past, and I find it very, very powerful, is just like the thermostat. Unfortunately, we are set at a certain temperature based on, the things that we've learned from the people around us about money. And all of a sudden, we have these really, really great goals of making, $10,000 a month, $1 million a year, whatever it may be, and we're trying to do that with the current temperature. So it's almost like we want to get to 90 degrees, but our thermostat is set at 70. So unfortunately, that doesn't work. And then people draw the conclusions that they're not good or something's wrong with them when it has nothing to do with their potential or what they're able to do, but so it has a lot more to do with what their thoughts and feelings are about money. And there was this great teacher that went on stage and basically pulled out a roll of money and said, "Oh, my little puppy, oh, my little darlings, thank you so much for being here. You are wonderful," and and whatnot. And everybody in the audience was very like repulsed because supposedly they had a good relationship with money.
Hmm.
And then he goes ahead and says, if I would have came on the stage holding my grandson's hand and I would have kissed him and said, "Oh, my darling, you're so beautiful. I love you." None of you would have said anything was wrong with that. And
Hmm.
the point goes to prove how our beliefs about money that we don't even know about are influencing the decisions that we make and how much money we end up having in the bank. So it's not so much with the actual value of the money, but more so the thoughts and beliefs that you might not even be aware of. And that this is why I think it's really, really important to recognize what you're doing, what you're saying, and how you're feeling about money at a much deeper level than what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I never realized till I became an entrepreneur, I've done mindset work for years. Positive. I know how to put the right, how I choose my reactions, but I never realized money mindset is its own thing. And that there is a lot of subtleties and things that you would never even think about noticing with it. And it's something that I think everybody needs to at least have some awareness to so they can start to explore it for themselves. I don't think everyone has it in such a negative thing, but there's enough of it that it greatly influences everything that they do.
Oh, you know what? In my experience, I want to say majority of people do have it, and they
Hmm.
have it to much deeper level than we understand because we're so used. And here's what happens: we're so used to having someone else dictate the value of our time and work because we're used to working
Hmm.
hourly or salary. So someone else outside of us dictates our value
Hmm.
to the marketplace. And we don't really use that to reflect our worth. Those are
Hmm.
two different things. We have, and I believe one of the greatest aha moments was when Jim Rohn was talking about this, that, your worth is your own personal worth. You may be, priceless to your family, but your value to the marketplace is something different. And unfortunately, we confuse the two. And we go from, okay, I want to have my own business. I'm going to sell this product. And if it doesn't sell, I'm not good enough.
Mm,
And you wouldn't do that if you were in a job. You would say, like, if you were to go and work for minimum wage, you would say, you know what, I'm worth a lot more than that. Because there's better paying jobs out there, your skill set. But when it comes to having your own business, all of a sudden you're calling the shots. And those shots is have to do with your thinking, and your thinking has to do with how you're feeling. And especially if you've grown in an environment where money was either lacking or it caused a lot of issues in the family. And I've worked with clients that had the best intentions, were phenomenal people, had amazing skill set, but because there was trauma in their family around money, to where it split the family in two, then all of a sudden they wanted nothing to do with the money, even though they set goals for themselves to have that money being brought by their business. Whenever they were like almost closing the deal, they were backing out.
mm,
So, it goes to show that we need to be very aware of what we do and why we do it. And if you see yourself in the same, situation, in the same pattern, in things that you don't want, notice where it's coming from.
mm,
Become your own detective. I find that curiosity is probably one of the best things that we have to our disposal, and not to our advantage, and we don't really use it.
mm.
We kind of like shy away. We were kids and we always explored things, and now we're just afraid of it. Maybe we're afraid about what we're going to find out, or what we have to do, or what we have to face.
Yeah. I I'm also thinking too, a big lesson that I've learned around money mindset is that some people say money's evil, money's good, but money is just a tool.
Right.
And it's whenever we put a value, good or bad, on it, that's already a bit of money mindset creeping in. And another thing that I learned too is, money really is an energy thing. And it actually made me think is like a current is energy, and we talk about it as currency. And I'm like, oh my goodness, even the name of it is about energy. And I'm not like a big energy, I'm not a law of attraction person at all, but I definitely
I
do
am.
know. Huh? Are you?
I am.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot to it, but I don't understand it enough to be able to say, we're going to help you manifest with this. But I definitely know uh, once we focus on it being a tool and serving, I do know that that natural piece does bring the money to you. So whether or not that's you're attracting to you or you're just doing the right things for a business, because the most successful people in the world are those who help others get what they want. So if your business is locked into that, law of attraction or law of commerce is bringing more money to you.
And it's really interesting because I used to be the same way, and not so much that me, I'm not like the person with labels. Like, I'll recognize something that I've learned, but there's universal truths, and the way I look at it, and it was really greatly explained by Bob Proctor, where he says basically, you have a remote and you're on this level of frequency, so you're going to listen to a certain radio station, right?
Mhm.
So if your desire is to listen to opera music or to rock, you're not going to do that by sitting on the same in the same station, right? You're not going to do that by you
Yeah.
have to take the remote and you have to change the channel to the station that you want. And that's what it means by vibration. And the
Okay.
remote is really your feelings and your thoughts, because that's how you align yourself with that vibration, by choosing the thoughts and the feelings that align with it. And this is again why it's important to be curious about what limits you,
Mm,
and focus on the things that you want. Because for example, if you today someone came to your door and gave you a car, and you, like, a minute ago, you're feeling sad, right? I don't know, something happened, you got laid off, or your spouse said something sad, like bad to you, said, okay, well, I want to split up. and someone came to your door and said, some secret admirer, by the grace of God, you were given this car. All of a sudden, your attitude, your mood, and your thoughts change.
Mm.
And that's really what people need to tap into. How do we get to feeling that way without seeing the object first?
Mm.
Because it's the opposite. What people think is, I need to see it in order to believe it, but it's actually believing in order to see it. And that's how we get to things. This is really the order of things in the universe.
No, I like that because there is a certain element of, and we've talked about with purpose is faith, and faith is believing before you see things. So I definitely think there's an element of that. And I'm also thinking about, um, the people we surround ourselves with. Like there's a part where maybe we can't think about earning $10 million a year. Like we just think, oh my gosh, that's out there. But if you start hanging out with people who earn $10 million a year, all of a sudden you start to see it's possible and you get to learn from them. And then all of a sudden things change. So I think there is a piece on believing in $10 million a year, but also having people that experience it begins to normalize it for you. So I guess there's a piece of
Right.
how do you normalize it without even hanging around with
Right.
10
And,
mil.
and think about it this way. You may say, well, a $30,000 car, it's a lot of money. But someone with, $50 million in the bank is like, that's pocket change.
Right.
So, it's not the same view, it's not the same thoughts, and it's definitely not in regards to possibilities, because someone who built up that type of fortune can see that the opportunities are at every corner, and they know what it takes, and they don't even worry about it. But
Mm-hmm.
people from, like, starting from the bottom and going up, they constantly worry, what if I'm going to lose it? What if, the next thing or the next mistake is going to ruin me? What if this is not the right choice? There's like all these things that play into it. And one of the best stories I've heard, like in regards to money and how powerful money stories are, was a lady who, back in the, I don't know, the 20s, worked for a very wealthy family, and she was the grandma. And because of the situation, the way the world was back then, the whole family lived together. So the grandkids got to hear her every single time when she went home how rich people are so mean and greedy, and they're treating people poorly and whatnot. So those kids grew up with the belief that being rich is being greedy, mean, and treating people bad. So they stayed away from it. On the other side of the town, there was a guy who went and worked for this really wealthy man on his farm. And every time he would do really good at the end of the week, he would compensate for his work. So anytime he went home, he would say, wealthy people are really generous. They help out others in need and so forth. So those kids, those grandkids, grew up saying, I want to be wealthy. I want to help people. Wealthy people do great things in the world, and they help out those in need. So the story, the stories that we're told ended up, being the blueprint, the map for where those people got in life. Money were no different. They
Mm-hmm.
had no language. It was just the language that those particular individuals had in their experience with other people.
And what's
But
interesting, it wasn't actually the kids' experience. They
no,
were taking on their grandma's experience with people too.
exactly.
So, which I think is another key piece on, you know, kind of the Byron Katie's. How do you know this is true? Like,
Right.
why,
Oh,
based
yeah.
on what are you believing this? Well, because, like, well, if you haven't seen it, it's not true. And I would even go for it to say, even if you saw it in a certain conditions, this goes into that whole coaching is never say always or never. If you met one rich person who was an absolute user jerk, you can't say all rich people are that way either.
Eh,
But sometimes we latch into that and we just need to
right,
have that
right.
awareness.
And I'm glad you brought it up because one of the symptoms of people having a poor, like a lack mentality or mindset, money mindset is, overgeneralization,
Mm,
where everything fits in the same bucket. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
right.
And it takes as little as, looking up on Google what people do and how they help, and how many nonprofit foundations are out there. So, challenge your thoughts, challenge your beliefs. And
Yeah, my wife has worked in philanthropy since I met her, and to be able to see what the community gives back that is desperately needed by so many organizations. And I think it's so often they think rich people just throw it on the bed and roll around in it and giggle or buy new things, but they are really investing in the things that they care about, that other people need. So yeah, it recognizing that generosity. I just think too, it's just a real comes down to lack versus abundance kind of mindset. Like whenever we see there's limits, we know there's probably something to think about there.
yeah, and is the
So,
limits within ourselves. In again, the universe is abundant, and I think every single one of us is experiencing abundance right now, regardless of your circumstances. There's something to be thankful for.
mhm,
And um back about decade or so, there was the story of, look at the things around you and what it takes for them to be there, because we see a notebook, right, for example,
mhm,
but to make that notebook, it had to go from a seed in the ground to a tree to being gone to like a factory to where they press it and they transform it into paper, and then to bind it, and then to transport it to you. It's this whole process that we take for granted. And if we were to be like start being more grateful, and I do think that grace is definitely the antidote to the scarcity mindset.
mm,
um, when we start practicing grace with intention, but with the intention to recognize the abundance, all of a sudden we start turning lack into opportunities and into wealth and abundance. So, recognize that right now. And I heard it, and there was a millionaire, I completely forgot his name, that asked his mentor, which was a billionaire, what is your best advice when it comes to money, right? And he's sitting over here because he studied finances, and he worked, I think he interviewed about 12,000 millionaires, self-made millionaires in China. And I think his last name is Honda. And he went to his mentor and said, okay, what is your best advice? So he's thinking, oh, well, he's going to give me some sort of a strategy, right? And instead, what his mentor said is grace. Give thanks for the money going out and give thanks for the money coming in. And here's why. Especially for the money that goes out, we usually think of, oh my God, I'm going to be broke. Oh my God, I have to pay this again. And there is this resistance. And the things that we focus on and we constantly affirm are the things that constantly show up.
mm,
So recognizing this is why I think like money mindset is such a complex thing and such a beautiful thing too. Because
mhm,
once you start recognizing and you start applying the smallest things, such as being grateful for, being able to pay your water bill, or having, water running in your house. When you start shifting from I don't have enough to I'm so grateful that I have this and I'm able to do this. Even like the money manifests in different forms, and it may not be necessarily the value, like the face value of like the currency you're using, but it may be in someone opening a door for you,
mm,
like a opportunity with maybe a prospect or a client, or connection in a place where business may be driven your way.
yeah.
So don't limit it.
Well, and I think too, with that piece on being uh, great, grateful for it going out, goes into investment. And I think so often people think of things as expenses, like coaching or bringing on someone on their team as an expense versus an investment to new
Investment.
capabilities. So, a
Which,
coach is going to be able to help you take your business or life to another level. And bringing someone onto your team is going to be able to help you scale or help you be able to do more of what you enjoy. And like maybe it might not even come back as dollars, but it's going to come back in fulfillment. But yeah, so once again, is once you invest, like, do you see when you put money out as an investment or an expense? And that could greatly change things too.
oh, absolutely. And again, I'm bringing up Grant Cardone from the Undercover Billionaire. When I just started watching it, but I again, is what he's doing is something that normal people, no, I don't want to say normal, but people who have a limiting mindset is, for example, he went and built um, connections first. He offered his services for free to get to connect with people that are like great players in that area, because he knows those connections are much more valuable
Mhm.
than the little money that he could make working for them. Like, instead of getting $20 an hour, at the end of like 2 weeks, he ended up securing 10 grand because he worked for free. He offered his knowledge. And we're so focused on the short term gain that
Mm.
we usually forget the long term um, possibilities and the gains and opportunities.
Well, I know a great long-term game for our audience is to subscribe to our YouTube channel or subscribe to our audio show and give us likes, give us reviews, share with a friend. We want to be able to serve all of our small to medium-sized businesses and solopreneurs. We don't do this just because it's interesting to us. We do this because we want to help you maximize people, purpose, and profits in your business, because that's how we're going to make the world a better place. It's how we're going to make your life a better place. So thank you for listening, and make sure you check out our Facebook group where you can interact with Kat and I and other audience members and discuss this episode. We would love to hear your money mindset wins or your money mindset struggles, because it's only in the community can we help get the insights we need to go to new places. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.